What's good, y'all? Back with another Roaming Around episode podcast. The show. I actually recorded this 4 times. I recorded this video 4 times. So hopefully, go up this time. I offloaded every single app I got except camera. So hopefully it'll save. And I'm not going to do it while driving. Because, I don't know, maybe technical difficulty. I don't know. But consider this kind of the last episode of this season. I believe this is the 10th episode, 9th or 10th. But ultimately, when I created this podcast, I wanted to have people on it. People like, hey, what's going on? What you think? I got a few topics, few notes right here. We're gonna hit it, roam around in the mental mind, and let's see what's happening. Let's go. So, yeah, I'm gonna kind of wrap up the points in the last few videos and kind of hopefully kick off to where I'll have some people on here. That's not just me. And, I don't think, I know the length of the videos, I'm messing with. I like around a 20-minute video, but, podcasts, they can go for 2 hours. I see 2-hour podcasts, an hour 40, hour 50 podcasts. So yeah, I guess we'll figure that out. Might just have a varying range, 'cause I don't really care. As long as, I just want to get out there. And it's I'm here on this internet to shift paradigm. So if you're like a OG, well, yeah, is it OG squad, OG viewer or something, give yourself 20 push-ups, because that is the paradigm I'm going to be bringing. Give yourself a workout. Give your body a good exercise. Not, I got to go do this, I got to go do that. You don't got to do anything. We all choose to live, even if we didn't choose to live. So, with that being said, I'm going to get into the topics. A lot more people, almost everybody's waking up right now. Everybody's waking up. What are we waking up to? Well, first is that, oh my God, I can feel my consciousness. I can feel the Godhead. I am one with this. I am one with God. The rebirth, when people say, oh, the spiritual path, you have to be reborn again. The rebirth is birth. You understand what I'm saying? The rebirth is birth. And I was talking about this, God being reborn is a new person as a baby. The word becomes flesh. Your name. You become your name. And then, when you become conscious enough, you determine how and what you want, to what legacy you want, And that brings me to Buddha and Jesus. Buddha and Jesus, man. Buddha and Jesus. These are not their names. These are not their names. These are their God names. Their real name is Siddhartha Gautama and Yeshua. I'm not sure what Siddhartha Gautama means, but I do know that Yeshua means salvation or God saves. So you got out here people thinking a person, Yeshua, is the Savior. No, God is the Savior. God is the Savior. So many people have it backwards. And ultimately, it's the paradigm, just the way we think. And we're so tribal. We're so tribal that ultimately we alienated just unity consciousness. And, people say, hey, it's one heart, one blood, many faces, many names. Well, it's one heart, one blood. We're one with this. Let's go. What we want to do. You know what I'm saying? That type of energy was alienated to where Buddha and Yeshua had to go 40 days and 40 nights with no water or food. That is insane. Or is it? Because perhaps, why did they do the same amount of time? Perhaps they were revealing and being revealed to a sacred geometry. Often I describe the different perspectives of sacredness and holiness and divinity as we're all looking at the same kind of formless sacredness. Oh, it's just it's just that wave of knowingness. It's We're all looking at that, right? And what we deem holy and what we deem sacred and divine, we make into the world. And, you know, this establishes that mentality of what we saw, which is ultimately different patterns, sacred patterns of the same holiness. So when we make bridges, and then we are creating the human kingdom based off of, well, what we want to make it out. And that is always gonna be heaven. We always incline to heaven. Why nobody wants to go to hell? But remember what Yeshua's teaching was. It puts to sleep everything. Everything is, we are in heaven now. You go to heaven right now. Not when you die, but right now. Around you, within, and outside of you. It's among you, the kingdom. That's what he said. But ultimately, they had people names. These were people. These were men, right? So they showed us that humanity, all of us, have the potential of godliness. And not just, you know, hey, you know, he's doing everything right. She's doing everything right. Doing, you know, eating good, working out, you know, just doing everything right. Type of godliness. But, yo, we have the ability to hone the supernatural. And the more gratitude we have with that, the more we operate within unity consciousness, the less limits we see, and the more smooth reality becomes for all. What's good, y'all? So that first clip was part of the original video, but when I was making it, I was like, yo, this clip got corrupted or anything or something like that. But yeah, that first part was great, so I'm keeping it. And yeah, we're gonna continue on. It's probably about the 7th time I recorded this video, bro. It's just technical difficulties, my phone, and just all that shebang. But yeah, let's get into it. So the other aspect people are waking up to is, we are beautiful consciousness. We are God. It is idiotic to think somebody is God or can even replace God or have a psychosis of a God complex, because it is infinity. Like, it's infinity. You don't bargain with infinity. You just shake its hand. You know what I'm saying? You just meet it and you live within infinity. We're surrounded by a warmth of infinity. So, yeah, we're waking up to the beauty of our immortality. 8 billion purple crowns, perhaps unbeknownst. I call that tyranny on this land, one earth. So, the other thing is exactly what that phrase I just said indicates. 8 billion purple crowns, perhaps unbeknownst. I call that tyranny. We are the lords of our own mind, the rulers of our own mind. This is the reality we are sharing. And look how weak light is right now. But that's just looks, right? Ultimately, don't judge a book by its cover, because we are so much bigger than we think, right? And this ultimately leads me, I'll get to the other side of the awakening, but ultimately this brings me to just how beautiful humanity is and just how much I love my people. And yeah, it's just we're just so amazing, and we just don't know it. And people believe in God, right? But they don't understand that we can only have the same God, but just different expressions. Like the geometry, we're seeing the same sacredness within different geometries. We deem these sacred, yet attached to them, so they fight each other, when really those geometries are meant to be the symbols of us bridging together our own hearts and minds and souls, keeping the water under the bridge. Because ultimately, there are people who don't even believe in God, but they practice God pretty good. Everybody's doing their best. And there's other people, you know, who say they believe in God, but they're struggling to practice God. So ultimately, belief doesn't matter. The world does not care about your belief. It is the practice, is the technique. How practical are you? How fluent are you in your God, in your practicing of supreme? For the Buddha nature is within us all. The supreme is within us all. Within us all, baby. So the real light shines from God through us, one with us, illuminating us, through our hearts and out of our faces. We are all Israelites. We're humans. Human, the light beings, you know? So ultimately, in the last video, I talked about me being part of the 144. And for those who are not part of, you know, the understanding of the 144, don't even know any of those type of prophecies things. So there was this one dude writing the Bible. It doesn't really matter who it was, but he saw 144,000 people with the God of the Father and the Son's name written on the forehead or something like that. But ultimately, now in the modern day, we can see that 144 is our potential DNA as well as our expression of our genetics. So the 144 is not a people. It is that which encompasses the people. So we can see that there is a prophecy on our heads. There's a false prophecy. Everybody's looking for the Messiah outside of themselves, not looking right within them. There lies the answer. So ultimately, the second part of this, awakening is the bad part. Yes, self-awareness to who we are is so beautiful. This brings joy and all the things that are heavenly into the atmosphere, that which heaven would have if we lived there. So right where we stand is the potential of heaven and hell. But ultimately, somebody realized or decided I can bring hell here. And so it was probably a group of people. Ultimately, this is hell. This is hell. Like the residue, the signature, you know, you could taste it. Yep, no, this is hell. You know what I'm saying? But we're in our redemption arc. We're bringing it back to heavenly standards. I mean, think about it. There is a whole entire island of plastic in the Pacific that is about, I think, half the size of America. Don't quote me on that, but it's big as shit, bro, and it's too big, and that microplastics are getting everywhere, all in our ocean, all in our soil, and then the ocean makes most of all the atmosphere, and then that's being polluted too, and then we can't even see past our atmosphere because light is pollution there too. This is hell. Heaven is within us. If it wasn't for my people and my light beings, my friends, the lights within us, this would be hell. Hell. But right now it's just hellish. So that's the other awakening, is there are devils here ruling this with smiles, selling the wealth of their soul. Selling the wealth of their soul for fiat currency, for money and cars and Lamborghinis. Those fake rappers, man. But that's the other part of the awakening, is, oh my God, those people who I trusted are not who I thought they were. They are trying to manufacture the prophecy and create a manufactured timeline. Which brings me to my theory of why Jesus even died, as a ritual to keep the system going. But ultimately, it was the final sacrifice, the final ritual. He became the sun god. And ultimately, that sun godly potential lies within us all. And that's the return of Christ, is you and me and us and we standing against illusion and saying, we know the truth. The truth is all is one, yet distinguished. Beautiful. Where's that chef? Oh, that chef is us all, baby. Us all. As a kid, me personally, many people, you know, their savior is either Jesus or God or no one. To me, I remember this vividly as we saved each other. We saved each other. And then that's how God, you know what I'm saying? Is there's a signature. There is a indication of that is what that is. That is God. That is hell. This is redemption. Stuff like that. And ultimately, actually, wait, hold on. Hold that thought. I'm going to stop the video and then start my car because I don't want the microphone to go out and like fuck up everything. Okay, so yeah, that brings me to what I was talking about in the previous clip is Buddha and Jesus. Their names are not Buddha and Jesus. These are their God names in a sense. Is they showed us the true potential of humanity, and they both fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. That has to be an indication of some type of sacred pattern geometry of fours and whatever, right? But ultimately, imagine if all of, you know, who followed Jesus and Buddha, imagine they did 40 days and 40 nights. How much illusion we could actually challenge with the same wisdom that Jesus had, God. So this brings me into DNA methylation and transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. First, we will begin with DNA methylation. So I think these things are called methyl, something like that. But you could honestly I would recommend just looking it up and just watching the video. But ultimately, DNA methylation is the activation and the suppression of expressions of DNA. Thus, it is the path to awakening higher DNAs, JA 144, as well as lowering people's frequency, the awakening to the devils. As they are lowering frequencies and poisoning people's DNA to where disease is now being expressed through the DNA, and disorder in the mind and the heart, anxiety, depression is being expressed through their DNA by the activation of certain DNAs. Because of course we carry disease in, or I carry fucking disease. I carry I don't carry disease, I carry the code for disease. You carry the code for disease, and until that is activated, we are not in disease. We are not diseasing. You know what I'm saying? So this can also, just how it can be activated and advance your own, you know, physiology, it can also, you know, make people, you know, peasants and just scum. That's just how they view people, and it's sick. And ultimately, I'm gonna relate this to transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. So ultimately, critical thinking is lacking because many people are, their bloodline is just straight peasants, just straight consumerism. You know, of course there were certain ancestors who kind of made light of the weight, I suppose, or broke generational curses. Not entirely, but transgenerational epigenetic inheritance is the inheriting of your DNA from, well, across generations. And this is where Buddha and Jesus come in, because they are our ancestors. They are our ancestors. And when we focus on them, when we look at their geometry, we are putting ourselves in the situation for our DNA to advance itself. So, transgenerational epigenetic inheritance is the key. Make strong your life, the next generations will have potential to not strife and suffering, but strife and joy. So when you put yourself in the situations, the environment, the reality of certain ancestors, then that is when DNA methylation takes course. When we focus on Jesus, Excuse me, sorry, Yeshua. Excuse me, Yeshua. Goddamn. Anyways, Yeshua, Jesus Christ. When we focus on him, right, we're ultimately putting ourselves in the situation to, kind of choose, hey, should we heed what he's saying or just take anything to thought, Ultimately, if you follow the path of Jesus, he will lead you to people. He will lead you to challenge the entire world. That which is not being done by most Christians. So you can see that just as DNA advancement can be reversed, enlightenment can be hijacked and corrupted and martyred, to where now Christian nationalism is on the rise. And Christians, it's so frustrating and idiotic that Christians should be able to see right through this, but they don't. There's a King Jesus. So heed that signature, different from the chosen Yeshua, Jesus. And ultimately, the Antichrist wears the body of Jesus. So if you're only looking at the flesh and not within somebody's heart and soul from where the light shines, if you focus on the origin point, you will know exactly who you're looking at, whether it be the devil or God. Or devils, really, there's devils and the children of God, which is, spoiler, 8 billion of us. But most of us, I want to say 8 billion, some people could be just like fucked up. I don't think that's even true. But most people walking around not being their true self, that's where compassion takes course. Because ultimately, people are following the same cycles because their ancestors, that's what they gave them. Is they're following the same path as their ancestors, consumerism. And, not speaking up in the crowd. Like, why didn't anybody, when Jesus was being, killed, why didn't anybody, say like, hey, what's wrong with you guys? Like, nobody spoke up. And that is ultimately that right there. Nobody speaking up when something is outrageously wrong. That is the rub that must be healed. Is nobody saying anything when something is outrageously wrong. Being more afraid of the crowd than regretting being within truth. So, that what people call normies or NPCs or, just people, bro. We're just fucking people, bro. We're just trying to chill, bro. They, depending on their transgenerational epigenetic inheritance, will kind of be filled in the same, like, kind of think of it as like rooms. Is they'll be filling the same rooms and realities that their ancestors did, just repeating the same cycles. But that's where Jesus and Buddha comes in as our ancestors as well, and saying, hey, there's more to it than we think. And ultimately, when Christians, especially Christian nationalism, is they only talk about how, like Jesus was nice and compassionate, but they're missing the main part. And my takeaway of when I first learned about Jesus is that there's lies in this world that are so made of fear. When challenged, murder or any extent is warranted. Is that I learned from Jesus, it's not to be nice. I was already nice. I see people who don't even believe in Jesus, don't even know they're nice. But ultimately to know reality and not be fooled by entertainers and politicians and anyone of that sort. Is yes, be nice, but the other side is know who you are. Know. These tech bros, meta men, man, they do not like my ass, bro. Before I started recording, I deleted a certain app that was like 2.5 gigabytes. And before I deleted that, I had 120 7.4 gigabytes out of 128. Then, I recorded the video, 2 gigabytes, there's plenty of room. But I come back and look at my storage because, well, I'm recording this video because the last one got fucking corrupted. I made a 40-minute video. I'm gonna keep this one under 10 minutes for the sake of storage, but when I checked my storage again, it went up by 3 gigabytes to 127.77. Bro, that doesn't make any fucking sense, bro. They're manipulating everything, bro. Everything. Them archons and bad puppets. MK Ultra, my people, makes me hungry. And I only eat truth, that real food. And ultimately, the last clip brings me to the phenomenon of the sinless human. I'm gonna call them the sinless Buddha. Yeah. And many people believe Jesus and Buddha, Yeshua and Siddhartha were the manifestations of the sinless human. Because ultimately, we all have the supreme essence, right? But we can fall out of our essence. The sinless human never fell out of their essence. And so their essence is their form. Instead of me righting my wrongs and making my essence my form, and my form my essence. Theirs, because it can be a woman or a man, it's just a sinless human. Their essence is their form, and their form is their essence because they never fell. They never sinned. And many people believe they will manifest on the Eastern Hemisphere because the Western Hemisphere has that false prophecy I was talking about, the 144 and the Jesus returning. Because ultimately, there's no species of human called Christians. Humanity is the people. So, yeah, when you look at the truth through culture versus reality, you must have the awareness to be able to discern between culture and reality. Otherwise, you will succumb to illusion. Sometimes I call sin illusion because, we can say we live in sin. Well, what does that mean? We're living in illusion. We're talking about the wrong ideas. We're being distracted from pollution and the hijacking of enlightenment. Is Jesus, he said, be kind, yes, but he also said, this reality is not what they say it is. They're hypocrites. They're building things in the name of God that are not godly. So, the return of the Supreme is us contacting our soul within and bridging that connection between our lower self and our higher self. Because what is the wisdom of this sinless human? It's that no one, not a church, not a world, not a government, not a guru, not a messiah, no one stands between you and the Supreme, between you and God. No one can stand between that. None. And ultimately, the other wisdom of theirs is, say I sin, right? I fall out of my essence. Well, acknowledging that and then redeeming yourself, you come back into your essence and your form can become Buddha again. Or Christ again. Because ultimately we're all Christ, meaning we have the potential to be, if you look at DNA, I've been talking about DNA a lot, is DNA, demon and angel. We can be angelic or demonic. So that's the potential and the indication that we are real. So, the return is, by acknowledging that, hey, we're not even energy. We're beyond that. We're pure consciousness. I can feel my consciousness with my consciousness and hear the people who do not want us to unite become angry. I can hear that with my consciousness. Which is like, chefs. It's us all. The chef is us all. So namaste, I bow to you. Because, what is the other wisdom of the sinless human? Because their manifestation can only be delayed. just as true to utopia can only be delayed, because the ultimate goal of humanity is to have a sinless humanity. So a sinless one must manifest Jesus before humanity can manifest with essence as form and form as essence. So the one rising in the east, perhaps, because we must not look outside of ourselves, for the answer may rise and we will be ready. Yeah, so I made this clip like 5 times. I know I said something else. Sinless Buddha, all is one yet distinguished. They never fell out of their essence. They can be man or woman, and they are not between us and God. Oh, yes. So, people have very similar energy cycles based off of what they inherited, which is their ancestors, their DNA, the energy cycles of their ancestors. You know, making peasants of feudalism in medieval times, that same residue and signature of a peasant in this reality. And ultimately, one of my ancestors is Geronimo. No, I also had some outlaws. But you can see me here. Geronimo was an Apache warrior. The same government that I live under is the one that killed his family, his babies, and his mother. And so, you can see me, I'm fighting where the war is, in this digital space, in our mental minds, stopping us from becoming stronger physically and spiritually. Because ultimately, we live in the digital verse, the physical world, the mental reality, and the spiritual nation. That's 4 dimensions, and that's probably just scratching the surface. So, if you think of your instance, your situation as like a room that was constructed for all, these citizens, those who constructed this, they made it out of fear. Because when it is challenged, the challenger is murdered. As we see with Stanley Meyer, the water engine guy. Anyways, as those tech bros, those people, feudalism, they don't want us to venture out in nature and leave these rooms that were made for us and meditate in the forest or walk at night and go within ourselves. Well, they don't want that. Ultimately, they don't want that so much they're willing to manipulate my iPhone storage somehow, some way, because like I said, that doesn't make any sense. 2 gigabytes, jumping up 2 gigabytes, deletes all my beautiful information. Very digestible. I hope is it digestible? Please let me know. If what I'm saying is like, yo, what the fuck is he talking about? Oh, nah, I'm chewing on this thought good, But yeah. Utopia can only, so let's just summarize. Utopia can only be delayed. If you follow your will, you will be put in the rooms, in the situation where your essence, your physiology can be awakened and your body can embody your essence. So don't fall out of it. And Buddha and Jesus, these are not their names. Siddhartha and Yeshua. Brother Siddhartha and brother Yeshua. They let us know the cleared signature and residue of that is the essence of all. They are embodying this. So we can discern from idols that many people are worshiping as well, like a god, or celebrating like a god. So, yeah. Baby, you a work of art, bro. You a work of art. It's always going to work out. So just stay roaming around. Trust yourself. Whatever dimension we're on, you already know. Much love, my friend. Peace out. Oh yeah, bro. This is probably gonna be the last video like of just me, because I'm ready to interview people. And yeah, so last summer is, some people are in apocalyptic end times. Other people like me are in beginning times, exploration, right? Revival. And this is why we must have compassion for those who are still within the old reality that has been manufactured by, well, them scumbags. You know who I'm talking about. So, yeah, fuck Peter Thiel, fuck Trump, fuck Elon Musk. I could do with their money better than them. And yeah, so let's rise up, my friends. Peace out. Wait, I forgot to say the name of the essence. So when we say we are God, right? We can try to, classify that as one. So who is we as feminine? It would be Sophia. Who is we as masculine? It would be Jesus. So Jesus does not refer to Yeshua. Jesus refers to the essence of all beings within the masculine realm or perspective, or whatever, however you want to see that. And on the other side is Sophia, Christ Sophia. And yeah, so the essence, our collective essence, we can call, if we want to call on our collective essence, we can call on Sophia and we can call on Jesus. But your essence is unique and it is real and it is distinguished. So don't fall out of your essence. Stay you. You can call my essence, Rom'n. But ultimately, that's me. I am my essence. And yeah, so the goal is to make your form your essence and your essence your form. And yeah, it's amazing out here. Peace out, my friend. Peace. Wait, sorry, I forgot one more thing. Probably the most important thing is with DNAs, we have the power to advance our coding. And yeah, and also, we have the power to limit and corrupt and poison people's coding, which is what has happened to us from other people. So yeah, we can literally upgrade our DNA, and that is the phenomenon of the 144,000. It is the growing of DNA. So yeah, peace.